everybody, and welcome to Hann-Made Studio. I'm Cheryl Hann-Woodlock. Today I'm going to teach you how to make this cool little fella. Stay tuned. You're going to need today to make this little fella. You're going to need your knife to cut your clay. You're going to need skewer today. This is a chopstick and this is the skewer. They're great for making holes. The other thing that works really well is this ribbon tool. So it's got the round little edge. If you don't have a ribbon tool, and a lot of people don't, you can use a teaspoon and they're going to help make the wings on this fella. The other thing that most people don't have is a rubber kidney. They are really good. They're very, very flexible. If you don't have that, you can use an old plastic card and they are also quite flexible and they're going to be very handy for smoothing out today. The other thing that you will need, of course, is our clay. So I've got my basic earthenware hand building clay from Clayworks today. So you can choose any clay you like and we'll see you soon. Bye. Welcome back and we're ready to start. Today we're going to make a pinch pot. We're actually going to make two pinch pots. It's hard to say. So if you know how to make a pinch pot and you've been with me before, fast forward. Those of you who don't know how to make a pinch pot, just follow on. But we are going to make an hour today. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to work out where my eyes are going to go. And this is where a skewer comes in handy. I'm going to work out where his nose is going to be and roughly where his eyes are going to be. So that's roughly where I'm going to put everything. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make his nose. A little ball of clay, roll it. That's roughly a ball. It's not a great ball, but it's roughly a ball. With my hands, they're drying out again. And I'm going to roll the point, the bottom into a point. So I now have a point. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to pinch and that is the beak for our owl. There we go. Now I'm just going to tease that around a little bit and see if I like this better. There it is. Scratch and slop to stick that on. The next thing I'm going to do is, in his beak he has little nostrils, little holes. So I'm just going to pop the holes in with my skewer. There you go. With his eyes, I'm going to actually gently press the clay in to create the eyes. And I'm just gently cupping my hand at the back. He now has lovely big eyes. I'm going to put some ears on my owl now. Clay, 2 balls. Remember rolling to get the pointy end. And then flatten. Scratch and slop to stick. and smooth that in. He now has ears. The wings are going to be round balls. So clay, now we're going to flatten them. And they're roughly the same size. The reason I roll them and flatten them in my hand is it keeps the edges really nice and round. If I rolled out a slab of clay and cut it with a knife, I get a very sharp edge. And this is really quite nice to get a really soft, gentle edge. Now I'm going to pinch for the end of his wing. Do the other one. Now I'm going to just put my finger under it and I'm going to gently press. I'm actually smoothing under, pushing that clay up. And I now have this curve. Our wings. So work out where you want your wings to go, down or right down. I'm just going to pop them there. There we go. I'm going to mark where I'm going to scratch and slop to stick them on. Now, I don't need to scratch all the way around. If I scratch really well, just on this part here, that will stick. Remember the little bit of a jiggle. The other one. The other thing I could do now, I've got a little bit of marking around here, so I'm just going to use a paintbrush and I'm going to smooth around the wing. And we now have our wings on. I now need to put pattern onto my wings. This is where we practice on a piece of clay. I could use the ribbon tool, and it does that pattern. I could use a spoon. I could also use a knife. It's basically up to you to work out what tool works for you. I'm going to use my ribbon tool. Make sure you get both sides even. The other thing I did was I did the swirls going down. I can use my skewer for that. The back needs a tail. You don't have to put a tail on. This fella doesn't have a tail. Most people roll out a flat piece of clay and then stick it on. It's not very strong and they usually break off. I'm going to show you how to make a tail that won't break off. A piece of clay, roll it into a ball. We're going to make the end pointy again, just like we did with the beak. Now I can gently smooth that down. I've still got this round piece here, so I'm going to flatten that because that is going to go on the back. And we've got a nice wide area now for that tail. It's also very strong. Scratch and slop to stick. The other thing I've done, I actually haven't got it sitting on the ground, it's sitting above the ground. If I sat it too close to the surface of the table or this banding wheel, it would knock and there is a chance that it would break. So it's above that. And now I'm going to smooth it. I have these areas that are not smoothing very nicely, so I'm going to add little balls of clay. Now I'm going to turn it upside down and have a look at the bottom. If I keep trying to work on this now and put the holes in, it's all going to be very sticky. The clay is still quite soft. I like to do the next bit when it is leather hard. So leather hard means that you can hold it and your fingerprints won't go into it. You can cut it easily, but it's not so hard that it's really hard to cut it. So we're going to leave this for me for around about 2 hours and then I will come back. So stay tuned. The other thing I could do to speed up the drying process is use a heat gun. You could use a hairdryer. A heat gun goes to 240 degrees centigrade, which is quite hot. I'm going to blow the air over. I'm not going to do it too quickly. I'm going to take my time. The other thing you need to make sure is that put your hand on it and feel how firm it is becoming. The clay is still going to heat up after you've stopped heating it physically. The clay gets warm and it's still going to be drying. So don't dry it out too much and don't get it too hot too quickly. Otherwise it could explode. We need to put holes in this so when we put the candle in, the candle doesn't extinguish. Also, it looks really good at night to see the light coming through the holes around his head and around his eyes. It can be quite spooky. Using a chopstick, because this end is not too pointy, and that will work really, really nicely. So I'm just going to put a little hole. I like the hole there, now I can make it bigger. And a sponge is really good for making your tool a little bit more slippery so it doesn't grip as much. On this one, I've actually got holes going around the eyes, and I'm going to use my smaller skewer for that. The other thing is when I put it in, I actually twist it. So I'm twisting with my fingers when I'm pushing it in. On my owl, I like to have the wings and the feathers. So I'm actually going to use the skewer to create some nice little feathers on his head. And textures capture light and they create shadows, and that gives form. So textures on your work always looks really great. Now I need to put in the feathers at the back. With these holes, they are going to let air in for the candle, but they also illuminate light, so it gives extra light to this piece. I'm going to keep going. The last thing we do on this owl is we need to put the hole in to put the candle in. I need to think about how big the hole needs to be for my candle. Also, clay shrinks a little bit, so don't make it too small. The clay now is leather hard, and if you do it too soon, the whole thing can collapse because there's a lot of weight on top and it will pull down. So make sure the clay is nice and leather hard when you do this. Draw it lightly with your skewer first so you know where you're going to put it, and then use a nice sharp knife. So I'm going to draw it first. And that looks like the right place. The next thing I'm going to do is cut it, and I'm going to do it in little stages at a time. Not too quickly, just take my time. And it might take 3 goes to get through the thickness of that clay. Don't rush. You'll also feel when you've gone through, because it's easy to pass through the clay. If it's still hard and it's grabbing slightly, you haven't gone all the way through, so keep going gently. I think I've gone all the way through. Now I'm just going to do the bottom. And let's see if this pulls out. There we go. It all came apart. So now I have the hole in my owl. I can tie it up because I've got little bits and pieces everywhere. This is where I can put some feathers on his chest now. I didn't put them on earlier because I was working on the front. I was a little bit worried that my hands might get in the way and ruffle up his feathers, so to speak. So now I shall do the feathers on his front. I now have my tea light. With cleaning the inside of this owl, he's too wet still. When he's a little bit firmer, I can go on the inside and I can get a tool and scrape all those little balls that are on the inside that look a little bit messy. So be patient and wait till he's a little bit firmer, and then you can start doing all that cleaning up. Thank you so much for watching today. This was a really fun activity. If you like what you did, and I'm sure you did because these look really, really cool, could you please hit that like button, subscribe and ring that bell, and we will see you soon. Thank you very much. I'm Cheryl Hann-Woodlock from Hann-Made Studio.